Rowing's rowing, right? Well, no. Depending on what you're rowing on, there's subtle differences that you might need to look at when it comes to your technique. And specifically on an Aviron rowing machine, there's one thing about it that may change some of your technique that you'll have to think about when you're rowing. Now, I recently made a video comparing my Concept 2 and the Aviron rowing machine for how it felt to row on. And one of the things that I picked up was that my compression into the front of the machine on the Aviron was different compared to the Concept 2. And so I was looking at that, trying to work out why that was, and one of my friends, Richard Wilder, got in touch and he said, take a look at the angle of the foot plates, which I did. And I measured the Concept 2, which is 42 degrees, and then I measured the Aviron, which is 55 degrees. And that 13-degree angle change is huge when it comes to how it affects the angle as you come into the front of the machine. So why have I front-loaded a video about technique on the Aviron by talking about foot plates? Well, what I'm going to do first is take you through the entire stroke, and then I'll tell you why they matter, all right? Because this way I'll really be able to show it to you. So I'm in my socks today, so you can see clearly what's going to be happening with my feet. So here we go with the basics of the stroke, okay? So I'm going to come into this position so we're all nice and loose. You've picked up the handle. You start the stroke at the catch. So what you want is arms straight. You want a forwards tilt over your hips, and you want to roll forwards far enough that your shins are in a vertical position. Okay, so this is you in the catch position. Keep an eye on my heels right here because we're going to come back to this, right? And then you drive with the legs for as long as you can go before you then swing with your back, pull in with your arms, right? Now, what happens with your arms? Well, you want to finish with the handle round about sternum height. You want to send your elbows through your sides. If you want to have a slight flare outwards of your elbows, that's fine. What I don't recommend is going completely chicken wings. But if it helps, in order to keep your wrists flat, to bring your elbows slightly out to the side, then please do. So, once again, so you drive with the legs, swing over the back, pull in the arms to sternum height, elbows through your sides. Okay, so this is a nice powerful position at this point. Once you get to the back of the stroke, point your toes towards the front of the machine. That will keep your feet connected to the foot plates. I'll explain why you want to do that later, all right? So you get to the back of the stroke, toes pointed to the front of the machine, elbows through the sides, handle at sternum height, and that's you finish the stroke with a nice powerful posture, okay? And then the release is the opposite. So arms go away, and the momentum of your arms coming away from your body is enough to trigger your forwards lean again. So you're in this forwards tilt, arms straight, before your knees bend. That is also important, okay? So you're in this position, and then your knees bend, and you come rolling towards the front of the machine, and then you're ready for the next stroke. So just to quickly go through this. So legs, body, arms, arms, body, legs. And the important things to remember here are to keep those arms nice and straight as you drive out from the front of the machine, but also to keep that posture nice and powerful with your back. I'll explain why in a minute. And you're just tilting into a 1 o'clock lean towards the front of the machine, and then an 11 o'clock tilt, lean, layback, whatever you want to call it, at the back of the stroke. So you're not really crunching into the front of the machine, and you're also not coming off screen by leaning so far back with the handle up in your throat. Okay? So just a nice powerful, we'll just do one more time. Legs, body, arms, arms, body, legs. Now, once we're in this position at the front of the catch, I can start to talk about the heels. Look at how far off the foot plate my heel gets as I come into that shins vertical position. Now, heels up in themselves aren't really a problem, okay? Now, there's a flexibility side of this where it could become uncomfortable. You can start to just kind of get a little bit sore into your shins and your ankles and all that kind of stuff. But really, when we're talking about rowing point of view, the bigger danger of having your heels up is power leaks, because what happens is as you come forwards, your backside escapes away from you before you get a chance to get your feet and get that power into the machine. So the power leak from having heels up is massive. The difference between having heels up at the front and missing the catch, or only coming in and not quite getting your shins vertical but being able to get the power right in from the front can be very noticeable. Obviously, preferably, you want to get your shins into vertical to give yourself the entire push that you can from your body. But if you're losing all of this slide before the power gets into the machine, then that's something that you really need to think about yourself and work out what you want to do, okay? But, okay, is he ever going to stop talking? No. But there's actually a bigger compounding issue when it comes to heels up. So you're in at the front in this position, you drive, okay, holding that forwards tilt for as long as you can, then you swing your back, then you pull in your arms, okay? So you finish in a nice, powerful, primed position. And if you bend your knees and throw the handle over your knees, look at what's happened to my posture, okay? So I'm now rolled backwards over my hips, because my hips are pointing backwards here as I come into the front of the machine. So I can, let's go again. So knees come up, handle goes over, and I'm now rolling to the front of the machine like this. Now, take a look at what's going on with my shins and my heels. So my shins are in round about that vertical position. My heels are even higher off the foot plates than they were before, because now all of the angles around here have completely changed from when I was just tilted forwards over my hips. So my hips are now rolled backwards, which now creates this huge angle between my hips up through my thighs and into the front. And so in order to come into the front, I'm now leaning backwards effectively. My heels are right off the machine, and I've got no kind of powerful posture, let's say, to come into the front. And so what it means is that I would be pushing off, and I totally miss that power that you can add in from your back. Because if I was just to row with my back, okay, so I'm not using my legs at all, I'm just rowing like this, I can get up to like 2 minutes per 500 meter pace just from my back. So you really don't want to be missing that from your stroke. So you want to get into the front, drive back, arms. But if you do knees up first, handle over, and you're constantly leaning backwards, then not only do you start to lose power at the front from your heels being up, but you also don't get the chance to add in that power from your back swinging from the forwards to the backwards lean. And here's the coda to all this. You might have read somewhere that it's an all-over body workout, which it kind of is. If you do this right, it'll run about 85 to 90% of your muscles. But the key here is if you do it right. And part of that is that forwards tilt swinging into the backwards tilt, because that uses your trunk, your core, everything. If you come into the front and you're already leaning backwards and you push, you're no longer using your trunk and your core to really generate power and to add in more muscle. So you're really reducing that 85% of muscle power down to like kind of 50, 40% muscle power, because you're reducing that kind of all the upper body stability and that kind of swing over the hips. So this isn't just, I'm not saying, going through all this, just trying to turn you into a rower and to say, oh, in order to row down the Oxford course, you must do it this way, haha. No, I'm trying to tell you how to row efficiently on the machine so you can get the best workout possible. Also to make sure you don't get injured, okay? So like I say, if you're coming into the front like this and everything's all over the place, primarily what's happening now is that as you push, it's all going through your lower back, rather than when you're in that front primed position, it's coming up through your posterior chain, through the handle, and your back doesn't get involved until you swing. And at that point, it's power that's taking you backwards rather than it just being a force into your lower back. So really, the difference here, I can feel it coming right down here into my kind of L2 to 4 area down in my lower back, whereas when I power from there, it's all about trunk and core, and that way I then get an ab workout as well when I'm rowing. So just in case I've gone through all this and you're like, oh, come on, man, just tell me technique one more time, then let's go for it one more time, okay? So arms straight out in front of you, tilt over your hips, a good powerful posture, okay? So we're not slumped, we're not rolled in the lower back or rounded in the upper back, so a nice powerful posture. Come into the front, shins vertical, and then drive out from the front with the legs. Okay, so you're holding those arms nice and straight, drive. You can even do this as a test. This is what I do as one of my warm-ups, is just to hold this forwards rock, arms straight, and drive out with the legs, just to get used to this feeling of being in this position and just starting off the stroke with the legs. And then after the legs, you get the body. Okay, so you can add that in. Legs, body. Arms are still straight. Notice my arms have not bent at all, okay? And then you go legs, body, and then you finally finish with the arms, and then do it in reverse. Then arms, body, legs. Like I say, there's going to be a decision you're going to have to make about heels coming up when it comes into the front, whether you want to allow them to come up, but you can make sure to plant them down if that's the case. Push, like a deadlift. You deadlift off your feet, you don't deadlift off your toes. So in order to get the power in here, you come in, push, in order to get the power in. Or, what I have started to do, 1 second, is I usually row in socks, but I've got a pair of very old running shoes that all of the foam, well, I try and get them on. Hang on, I'm too lazy to tie the laces. There we go. Where they're so old, the foam's completely compressed. They're actually quite hard soled now. And I've taken the insoles out of them. And now, because I've now got a heel on them, it's slightly changed the angle, okay? So the angle is a little bit different because my heels, instead of being flat like that in socks, are now up a little bit. Not a huge amount, but it probably takes that 55-degree angle down to around about 50 degrees if I'm lucky. But that does help when it comes into the front, that I feel I can come in and my heels aren't coming anywhere near as much off the foot plate as when I was in the socks. And I can certainly, as I plant my heels down, because there's that wedge of rubber on my shoes, I feel like I'm connecting quicker. So what it means is that when I'm on the Aviron, I'm going to row in shoes, in these disgusting old shoes, versus when I'm on the Concept 2 and I row in socks. So there's a little bit of a hack. That might not help you if you always just row in shoes anyway, I'm afraid. So the other thing is just to look at the height of the foot plates. Now, I do see quite a lot of people have the strap set quite high, so that it's on like the, what do you call it, it's at the bridge of your foot. So it comes across there. So what you really want to do is set the foot stretcher height so that the strap comes across the balls of your feet, which is kind of like the bottom lace on your shoe, okay? So it's the bottom horizontal lace on my shoe. That's where the strap comes across, and that's going to help with the angle of your feet because they're slightly lower down. That's also going to help with the angle when it comes to come to the front. Now, I'm not saying my heels aren't still coming off the foot plates, but in shoes, they're not coming off quite as high in kind of effectively than when I was just in socks, okay? There we go. That's the end of my video about technique on the Aviron for now. I'm sure I'm going to come back to this kind of thing, and I've still got to make more videos about this machine because, like I say, there's lots to talk about. It's a fun machine to use, and yeah, like I said, there's lots to talk about. And remember, you can find my row along workouts on the YouTube channel on your Aviron monitor, so do take a look and row along with some of them. Until the next video, please look after yourselves, row well, be well, bye-bye.